Let's please welcome the very enthusiastic speaker. Please put your hands together to welcome the Global Chief Data Officer from Michelin, right in there, Vijay Balakrishnan. And Vijay, warm welcome to you. Do you want to say any words for all the audience members who just clapped for you as well?
Eh, Thank you so much. I'm generally a very jinxed speaker. I go right before lunch, or right before lunch, or right before dinner. I get my slots, and I see an open bar yet to be opened. So I'm a fairly spirited speaker, but I cannot match to that spirit. Okay, so I'll keep it. I'll keep it very brief. Yeah, so what is data mesh? Let me just introduce the topic a little bit. Few minutes back, we talked about, taking the ocean to you for a glass of water or taking the glass to the ocean, right? Data mesh is about serving water through pipes and taps through a water purifier at your home. That's as simple as that. So a couple of icebreakers, let's say, you would have read it by now, I guess. Okay, so it seems like there is a data-driven decision being made, but then the data is being asked to support a decision. If you can go to the next slide, please. There's one more example where of another data-driven decision where, can we go to the next slide? Oh, it's here? Okay, thank you. Okay, there's one more example here where there is a data-driven decision being made, but apparently not without much worry about the quality of data, okay, for a long time. So, hello everyone, very good late evening to all of you. My name is Vijay Balakrishnan. I'm the Chief Data Officer of the Michelin Group. So, I don't know how many of you are aware of everything Michelin does today, so I'm going to do a very quick review of what we do, right? We make the best tires in the world. It's very simple, very straightforward. We are so proud of our product, the quality of our product. But not just that. We are primarily a mobility company. Our aim is to offer a better way forward, a better mobility forward to the entire world. Okay, so that's what we live for. So how do we do that? What do we do beyond tires, right? So if you see, there are 4 areas of business that we focus on. We sell tires, we do services, and we sell solutions that support tires. We also do digital services like maps, like Google Map. We have a product called Via Michelin that's heavily used in Europe. We do the Michelin guides, Michelin star restaurants, and so on. Basically giving you more reasons to move from one place to another. And then, of course, we have growing our expertise around high-tech materials, 3D printing, hydrogen fuel cells, et cetera, et cetera. That's a quick overview of what we are today. But we know that that's not enough for us to be relevant in the years to come. It's all going to be sustainable, and we will be sustainable. The world will be sustainable. So how do we plan to do that? It revolves around 3 dimensions for us. One is what we call as the 3 Ps: people, profit, and planet. To go there, to grow in all these 3 Ps, we are using 6 transformational shifts. I'm not going to read them all for you, but a critical shift that we are all aligned today is the becoming a data-driven company. And then, as you saw, we are not just a tire company. We love to grow with tires, beyond tires, as well as tires as our primary product. So why am I talking about all of this, right? So I'm not really here to sell Michelin tires or Michelin, okay? But this gives you a context that innovation is critical for Michelin to be sustainable in the decades to come, in the years to come. So that's why I introduced the context setting for you, that we are at a juncture where we know that what we have done all these years is not enough for us to be surviving in the years to come. And that's where data comes in. Data is very, very critical for a business to innovate. So a lot of us talked about data democratization. And the usual myth implies data democratization is equal to data access, but not just that, right? So it is about creating that zone of comfort, then providing the tools, and making sure your organizational culture is to use data first for decision making and not as a way to validate your gut-based decisions. I think a couple of sessions back with Denodo, they were talking about taking the horse to the pond to drink water, etc. I think culture is about making the horse feel thirsty, right? So that's what we are intending when we say data democratization. Employees in a company which feels democratized should feel the need to access and analyze data. So what's the relevance to whatever I said so far and data mesh? And how is it going to be different from what we have been doing in terms of data lakes? So people who have Googled or will Google data mesh will see this diagram first, right? It's about, we think APIs, it's about breaking your organizational data into meaningful APIs and serving them, at a very, very abstract layer. That's what it is. Like I said, pipes, taps, water purifier, you get water at home. Now, but that doesn't help explain this much, right? So I have taken a very personal way of explaining what happens in a data mesh. It's a very, very new topic. It's going to be relevant at least for 5 to 7 years in the industry. It's still catching up. I've talked to 40 organizations. I have not seen one who have implemented an enterprise data mesh. There is creation of data, and then we have the consumers of data. So there is a set of processes we do to make sure that the data becomes trustable, understandable, and available. And once we do that, we make sure that consumers or potential consumers of data have the ability to access them, analyze them, and we monitor use, and we create eventually a product experience around data, right? So you go into Amazon today, it says, oh, maybe people who bought this also bought that. Likewise, people who use this data also use this other data. Maybe that is something that you want to look for, right? So I think eventually, our aim at Michelin is to cater to that consumer base, to make sure that we create that very, very unique and advanced data experience for all of our employees. Now, I mean, rest of the terms are very, very straightforward, so I won't insult you by explaining all of that. But one part which is very critical in this slide is the data owners. Coming from a technology organization, the usual conflict I face is, oh, you are the chief data officer, when am I going to get my data? That does not work like that, right? So that's the part I have tried to explain over and over again. Data is not the responsibility of technology teams, IT teams. Enabling data, enabling an ecosystem that would support you to access and use data is the role of IT. Data itself is absolutely a business accountability and responsibility. A manifestation of that ownership is the role of the data owners. So breaking your organizational data, enterprise data, into data domains, which are usually different from your business process domains. It's a second dimension. And identifying owners of each of those data domains and creating that sense of product thinking in those data owners is critical to implementing data mesh. That's exactly the phase we are at Michelin today. So I kept using the term product thinking, right? So what do I mean by that, right? If I am the owner of a data domain, let's say my favorite data domain is customers. Customer as a data domain. I want to make sure that my product, which is customer data, and the set of dimensions and facts around customer are discoverable. Of course, you can search for it. You are able to understand. They are addressable. They are trustworthy. I publish quality metrics. People know whether it is 80% confidence or 95% confidence with which they can use some data. It's self-describing. It's not human dependent. You know what the data is meant for. FX underscore customer underscore field 3. I need to put semantics on top of it so that it is self-describing. Very importantly, it is interoperable. None of these domains by itself will become useful at the farthest end, right? So that's where it is very important to make sure these blocks of data domains or data nodes, as they call in the data mesh, are interoperable, and eventually, goes without saying, last but not the least, it's secure. Now, I have this is my last slide. And I have a way, to be honest, I created this slide, and then I removed all the technicality from the slide, and the slide ended up becoming very different. So data mesh, and the problem I'm trying to address here is people looking at IT organization and saying that, oh, data mesh, a IT organization, give it to us. No, that's not what it is, right? It's absolutely an enabler from IT for the business data owners. So what do they have to do with that? They would have to manage, own, and serve their data. And I'm talking about literally people in the business organizations serving their data and the set of data in their domain as a product. So I have 3 ways of explaining that further, right? So one, purely from a feature standpoint. Again, the top diagram is what you will see when you Google for data mesh building blocks. You need a distributed architecture. You don't want a heavy, large volume data moving from left to right. You need a self-service oriented architecture. Of course, like I explained, you need product thinking. Data is my product. I need to sell the data within the company and potentially outside the company. And then very, very strong governance ecosystem. And the data owner should be a critical aspect of that governance ecosystem and process itself. That's on the feature side. Now, data products, right? I've already explained what product thinking on data actually means. But then I wanted to put these 3 layers of data products, because what you will be doing today is you will be sourcing data from different sources, putting them into a lake, and then you will be consuming it for specific business cases that you're building, solutions that you're building with it. That's the first and the last layer. You create a source layer of data, and then you create a fit-for-purpose layer of data where you build solutions. Data mesh is all about the middle layer, okay? You should start thinking about how many aggregated data product layer components that I'm building. Now, a tiny example, again, back to my favorite domain, customers. Sourcing data from Salesforce, ERP, and wherever else your customer data could be is source layer. Creating that customer central referential with all the relevant dimensions becomes naturally your aggregate layer. And then fit for purpose is building a solution like Customer 360 where I hop in, I browse, I get everything about my customers. Lastly, benefits. I have listed a bunch of benefits. I want to call just one primary thing, right? There is today, whether you want it or not, there is a lot of redundancy and recoding that is happening in all of our organizations. People are recreating solutions or portions of those solutions for different projects that they are working on. That's the biggest advantage of going after a data mesh and a product mindset. It brings in the very, very critical reusability of layers when data is treated as a product. I won't want to copy a copy of my product to be used anywhere. So that's the, rest of the advantages I've explained through my presentation, but that's the biggest advantage I want to state today. So lastly, thank you so much for patiently listening to me at the end of the day, but we are definitely soaring towards our data-driven future, and I'm sure you all will be very soon. Thank you so much.